Many times we talk about conflict at home, conflict in the offices, conflict in our organizations, conflict even within a person. There is what we call intrapersonal conflict. The conflict between ideas, the conflict between positions that you are trying to engage in, and conflict is part of what happens every day in our lives. We can't talk about living without any form of conflict, whether it is conflict within ourselves, conflict between us and some other people, or conflict in groups. All these are forms of conflict that happen. But the question I want us to ask ourselves this morning or this day is, what is conflict? Conflict happens when there are different positions. There can be different parties having different positions, looking at same things from different perspectives, and sometimes there is not an agreement in terms of how can we look at it. Having conflict does not mean that we are wrong or right. Every person may be looking at the same thing from a different perspective. You remember the story of the blind man and the elephant, and every person described the elephant from whichever position he was touching. The people who touched the legs said that the elephant is like a pole or a pillar. There is a person who touched the husk. Another one touched the tail, and depending on what you touched, you described the elephant as you saw it. So, who was right and who was wrong? Many times in conflict, we do not have right and wrong. What we have are positions. And therefore, when you're looking at conflict, and the best way to look at conflict is to try to ask yourself, how do I understand the situation? And what is the understanding of this other person? How can I try to understand the other person? Because conflict is nothing but people or positions that are interrelated, but they perceive or they see, they understand the situation as being incompatible. We talk about incompatible goals. We feel as if what my position is and the other position, they can't go together. And therefore, because my position and the other position cannot agree, we feel there is some kind of tension, and this is what brings conflict. Conflict can also come because of what we call scarce resources. We may be looking at the resources that are available, and sometimes they are scarce. They may not fit all of us. So who gets it? It becomes a conflictual issue. Who gets these and who does not get? How do we divide? How can we be fair? If it's not something that can be shared, then who gets it? And when we cannot agree on those things, then there is some kind of conflict. So when we have scarce resources, there may also be conflict. Or maybe you have decided to do something and then you sense interference in the journey of achieving your goal. This person comes and you look at him as an interference. He's distracting you. This also causes conflict. And therefore, conflict comes when there is a goal to be achieved and there is a reason that we are not able to achieve that goal, because maybe there is a conflicting goal somebody is bringing in, or the resources are not enough, or maybe we feel and sense interference. But I want to say, as I come to the close of this short presentation, that we cannot stay without conflict. In fact, conflicts are good. They help us to think beyond and outside the box. Conflict helps us to grow. Conflict helps us to see the other side, and in seeing the other side, we grow, we develop, and in seeing the other side, we are able to think, to learn, we are able to explore, to find out, and in doing so we discover. So conflict helps us to learn. Conflict also strengthens relationships, because during conflict, as we try to resolve the conflict, we understand one another. We understand this other position and this other person. And when we understand the person, we are more likely to bond better. A pastor who was counseling a couple was telling us how it went. And he said these two people, lovebirds, they came to him and he asked them, "Have you ever quarreled?" And the couple said, "No, we have never quarreled. We have had a very good courtship, and in fact, that's why we want to get married." And the pastor told them, "Let me tell you honestly, you are not ready to get married." Why? Because if you have never quarreled, it means that either both of you are pretending or acting, or you are not serious. Because if you are serious, you can never agree on everything. What am I trying to say? Conflict is part